So good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Now, in Jira, are going to learn how to create a backlog and how to break the backlog items into user stories. Okay, so let me share my screen. So here is my Jira screen. So I believe this is the screen each one of you are in. So this is the main dashboard that you can see on the screen. Okay. So if you click on roadmap, right now our entire workspace is empty, so you'll not see anything. Okay. But as the project proceeds and once your product owner starts creating epics and you start creating user stories, then this roadmap will slowly become more visible for you. So roadmap will contain all the different items that you have to complete for that particular sprint or that particular release. And the backlog will be the entire product backlog. So we'll see one by one. What I'm going to do as first step is create some epics. So I'm going to act as a product owner. So remember, guys, product owners create epics. And as BAs, we have to break down these epics into user stories. So in most of the projects, the sequence that is followed is epics. Epics are broken down into features and features are broken down into user stories. Okay. So in the Jira tool, we add epics and we add user stories. So let me just show you the first step. So now visualize myself as a PO. So this is not a step that you will be doing as a BA, but in order to write user stories, we first need to have epics in Jira. So that's the reason I'm doing. Click on this create button that you're seeing, guys. Everyone's can see this create button in the top menu. The create button that you see in the top menu, something that you have to click on. Once you click on this create button, it will open a pop-up like this. It will say create issue. Now, every item in Jira is called an issue. That doesn't mean that you are creating a defect. So the issue type in Jira can be anything. It can be a epic, it can be a user story, it can be a defect also, or a task. So you'll see your project is by default selected by the tool. So you don't have to do any selection. Issue type, you have to select, because we are creating an epic right now, we select epic. So this is the step that a product owner will follow when she is creating a epic in Jira. And then we have the fields called as summary. We have fields called as description. So in the summary field, let's say the first epic the product owner creates is account management. So she creates an epic called as account management. I'll tell you what is account management. And here in description, she indicates that account management should include all features that allow a user to create accounts and manage it on the website. So remember, guys, in an agile project, an epic is equivalent to a business requirement in waterfall. I told you this in the first session also. Epics are equal to business requirement. That is how we have to see. So the PO has written on a very high level that account management should include all features that allow users to create accounts and manage it on the website. Now, when you say managing it on the website, what exactly she means is not clear here. So, as in all projects, your customers are not clear on their requirements in the first go. We have to drill down and get into details. So she has just indicated this. If your PO has some more details, she will add it in the description column. I will leave it in one line. Assignee, she might assign this to you because you are the BA on the project. She might assign it to you. And if you want to label it as a specific epic, then she can use it. Otherwise, you can leave it. Start date, end date, as per your project schedule, has to be selected. This is coloring of the issue. That means in certain projects, they follow color code. If certain epics are of top priority, they might indicate it as a blue color or a purple color, whatever is the code that has been decided. So this is not that important. It will vary from project to project. Reporter is the person who is creating this issue, so the name will become by default. Linked issues are if there are any dependencies that has to be flagged. Otherwise, these fields can be left empty. So don't worry about these fields. Attachment. This field obviously will allow the PO to attach any additional documents. Okay? So if she wants to give some additional information to the BA, like I told you in the first instance also, there will be a lot of source documents that the customer might send you. So you might need to refer to these source documents and then go prepared for your requirement gathering meetings. So if she has some additional documents, she will attach it over here along with this epic, and she will just click on create. It's on create. Now, did you see, guys? As soon as she clicked on create, there was the first epic that got created, account management. Has everyone done this? Everyone with me on this step? Great. So you should be also seeing your first epic in the roadmap section, that is account management. Now there is a shortcut to create epic here, or you can use the same screen to do it. There are multiple ways of doing it. It will generate the same output. So if you don't have much, many times I've seen POs in project, when they're creating epics, they don't have much information to add. They don't have information to add in all that description columns and everything. So they will just use this shortcut and click on the shortcut which says create epic here and say the next epic that she creates is verify seller information. Okay. So this is a quick way of doing it. Shortcut. This is a shortcut. It created it. So I don't have much information. So I'm just adding the name and in the interest of time, because I'm playing the role of a PO. So I'm just going to add the epics right like this. And user stories, we will add the user stories with complete details. Okay. Verify seller information. And what can be another epic? Let me think about it. Online payment transaction. Road car inventory. So she can go on adding as many epics. So what the PO is doing is she's creating a backlog. Please take a note of this, guys. The backlogs can contain epics. It can contain user stories. It can contain tasks. It can also contain defects coming from the previous sprints. All of this can be there. So we as BAs will just concentrate on epics and user stories. Now account management. So as a BA, so I'm telling you step-by-step things that you have to do on the project. Okay? Please note this information is not there in BABOP. I'm teaching you actual project implementation. So you have to take down notes. Otherwise, you'll forget. You'll not find it in the books. So step number 1, as soon as the PO has created this bunch of epics, what she has done is she has created the first set of product backlog. What you're seeing on the screen, product backlog will consist of many, many items. Right now, I've just put in 4 items, okay, for our study. So we are now exploring a technique called as backlog management, which is indicated in BABOP. So PO has created the first cut of the product backlog. As a BA, I will go and review these epics to see what is the information she has entered. So I click on the first epic and I see, okay, she has mentioned account management should include all features that allow user to create accounts and manage it on the website. Now, for me, there are several questions in my mind. Which users she's talking about? Because we have 2 types of users, correct? What are the 2 types of users that we have in the automobile project? What 2 types of users? Yes, buyer and seller. But the PO has not given us any details of that. It should contain all features that allow user to create accounts and manage it on the website. Now, by managing on the website, what does she mean? Does she mean it should allow the users to edit their profile? Or along with edit profile, are we also giving them an option of changing certain preferences? Like in LinkedIn, if you go and create a profile in LinkedIn, if LinkedIn gives you a number of settings that you can change in your profile, right? You can change your language preferences. You can add your certifications. You can add all your work history and all of that. So what exactly did she mean manage it on the website? We need to have clarity on that. And how is the account creation process? We don't have clarity on that. She has not included much details in this Epic. So as a BA, what will be your next step? You read this Epic account management. There are several questions in your mind. What will you do? What's the next step? So as a next step, you have to first prepare a list of questions using our RET template. Use our RET template to frame questions. All the questions that are coming to your mind about account management. Put it in a question sheet. Once the question list is ready, step number 2, schedule a meeting with the PO. Okay. So product owners are very senior level guys from the customer's organization. They are not your friendly colleague that you can just call them up and ask them immediately, what does this mean? You have to schedule a time with them. Okay. So schedule a meeting. What are the details the meeting should contain? Your meeting invite. We have already learned this in elicitation. What you're doing is you're in the first step of elicitation and collaboration. First step, which is preparation. One preparation you have finished. Your question list is ready. Next, what are you doing? You are scheduling a meeting with the PO. In the meeting invite, what details should be there? Tell me, what are the details that should be there in the meeting invite? Yes. It should contain the agenda and it should contain this question list that you have created. So in the meeting invite, include the agenda and the question list. Yes, if you need to take care of the logistics, then that also applies here. If you are having a face-to-face meeting with the person, or if you have to arrange for a meeting room, logistics applies in all the cases. Correct. So some of you have responded that you look into you look at the Epic and just break it down into user stories. It does not work like that, guys. Epics definitely have to be broken down into user stories. That's the final outcome. But you look at the Epic, you read the Epic, Epic is written at a very high level. Most of the POs will not give you detailed information. If you're working with a PO who gives you lots of details, then you are really lucky. Okay. So looking at this Epic, I come to the conclusion as a BA, I can't break it into user stories because I can't understand what she has written. It's very high level. So my next logical step is to have a requirement gathering meeting with her to understand this Epic. In the meeting agenda, I will indicate the scope of our discussion is account management Epic. And these are the questions that I have for this particular meeting. I send across the meeting invite to the respective stakeholders whoever should be invited. After the discussion with the PO, I will get a fair amount of idea what she expects in account management. Okay. So based on the clarity that I got in the requirements gathering session, I come to the conclusion. Give me a moment. So I come to the conclusion that in account management, she is talking about both buyer and seller. That is clarified. So both the account management for both these users should be happening. She has told me that. So login for buyer, login for seller, registration for buyer, registration for seller. Let me quickly create user stories with that title, and we'll write user stories in a proper format for that. Okay. So let me just quickly break it down in the next level of features. This is Epic, and now we are coming to the feature level. Okay. So let me quickly do it with me, guys. Seller login, buyer login, then seller registration, buyer registration. Now this is account creation and login. This we know. Create account, that part of account management is addressed. She had also mentioned in the Epic that they should be able to manage the accounts going forward. So I asked her several questions about what she actually means by manage account and what she has in her mind. So she told me that users should be able to edit their profile and change their details on the portal, which means edit seller profile is one of the user story. Edit buyer profile is another user story. Now, besides changing their details on the website, is there anything else that they can do? I asked her this question. Is there anything else that they can do? Or do they need, can they change their language preferences? Or maybe they can upload new documents? Can they do anything like that? So for now, she said, no, this is the scope right now. If we further feel that, some more account management features should be added, then we will revisit. We will add more items to the backlog. That's not an issue. Right now, this is the scope. So I have created. So you see account management, Epic is there. See, when I spoke about tracing requirements, guys, I told you in agile projects, epics will be connected to the user stories. See, this is the beauty of using a tool. There is one epic which PO created, and these are all user stories which the BA is creating. Now, let me tell you, these user stories are not currently in the proper user story format. Okay, I have just put down my thoughts. Okay, these are the features. I'm going to now write it in a proper user story format. So I click on the first user story, which is just named as seller login. Let me move these left-hand side screens so that it is much more visible. Yes. So what did I do is I click on the seller login, that user story. I opened it. Now, when I open it, it gives me different options. I can edit it, right? So I go to the description field. And here I will write user story in a proper format. Right now, I've just given a name to this user story. So let me take you to a template that I have created to make this task easy for you. Okay. So if you go to Business Analysis Hub, inside that requirements documentation templates, there is one template which says user story template. It looks like this. Let me open it. So go to Business Analysis Hub. Find this template over there. Grab that template quickly. This will just simplify for if any of you already know the format of user story, you don't need to grab this template. But for most of you are beginners in business analysis. So I have created a template which can simplify user story. Here, I'm in the requirement documentation template. And here, under the section requirements, there is user story. I click on it, and I get the user story template over here. There is also an image I have uploaded, user story Ranjita, one of our students, Ranjita had created some very beautiful user stories. So you can look at it as a reference if you have trouble creating user stories. So click on this, and there will be a download icon. It will help you download it. Download it in my machine. Yes. Everyone can see this template. I hope you have opened this template in your machine. Follow the steps, guys. I'm going very slow so that each one of you can follow it. In this template, I have written a format in which you have to write user stories. User stories are written in this format. As a user, I need to do something so that I can achieve something. Okay? And then I have a column on acceptance criteria. We'll see that later. Forget about acceptance criteria. So I have given examples over here. As a job applicant, I need to search for jobs using job title so that I can easily find jobs matching a specific job title. Okay. So always the last part of the user story is the goal. We have to clearly define the goal that the user wants to achieve. The center portion of the user story will talk about the action that the user is performing, what action he is performing on the portal. Okay. And the role parameter talks about what is his role, whether he's a buyer, seller, whether he's a manager, he's an HR. Okay. So all the columns that are marked in gray is something that will be replaced by your project scenario. And the columns that are marked in orange are the standard thing, with the standard text that you will use in all the user stories. So as a role, I need to do something so that I can achieve. We will use this format. Okay. So what was the first? Let me look at the first module that we picked up here in Jira. We were talking about seller login. And so I come back to the Jira screen now. Okay, I just wanted to show you the format of user story. You can use this user story template, this Excel sheet, to practice, guys. Practice writing as many user stories using that particular template. And in an actual project, you will have to directly write it in Jira. Okay. There are very few small projects. They don't have a budget for Jira and things like that. Then they maintain user stories in Excel sheet. That is a very bad way of managing it. It is difficult to get to completion. But in an actual project, we have to write these user stories in the Jira tool. So we start off with, as a seller. Let me write the first user story. So the format says, as a user, that means that we have to replace the user word with the role. As a seller, need to, what is the action user is performing? Log into my account. So he's using the login module to obviously log into his account, so that I can access all my account information. So that I can have access to my account information and so think about it, when a seller is trying to log into a particular portal, what is his intent? What is his goal? His goal is, first, he has already created an account on the portal. So he wants to log in so that he can access his account information, his profile details and all. Maybe he wants to change it. Or maybe he wants to have access to the additional features which are available only to registered users. Registered users might be getting a separate dashboard. Let's say in this particular project, all the sellers who have created accounts and are registered with the company, they get, upon login, they get a separate dashboard which says, what is the current value of their vehicle, and what is the how many buyers have shown a interest in that particular vehicle, how many buyers have viewed the vehicle. Let's say they get an elaborate dashboard. That particular dashboard is available only if the seller registers and creates an account. So the seller might be logging in to access his account information, or maybe some of the features which are only available for registered guys. So here I have written a full-fledged user story, guys. Okay. As a user, I need to do something in order to achieve something. Simple? Is it simple? Type simple in the chat box if it's simple. I want each one of you to fill this description column here. right now along with me. Don't wait to do it later. And you're going to explore the Jira tool here along with me. As a seller, I need to log into my account so that I can. Now, the rest of the fields are pretty standard. If you want to assign this user story to a developer, then select his name will come here. Your entire team member's name will come. You can select assignee, so and so. All this print and all will come later. Don't worry. It's print. This is supposed to go out in delivery. So you don't, when you're creating user stories, you don't need to worry about other fields. Okay. You should definitely, along with this, each and every user story, you should definitely have a priority field. Now, currently, you must not be seeing a priority field because it has to be configured separately in the backend, Jira backend. So your administrator will do it for you. Don't worry about that. You will not get into configuration details because it will get technical for you. So this is a user story that I've created, and I click on the save button. Do not forget to click on the save button. I saved. So which means I have added the seller login details. Now, there is more information. Do you think this information is adequate for your technical team to develop the login feature? Do you think it's adequate? No, it's not adequate. So although we wrote a user story, what is lacking in this user story, guys? What is lacking in this user story? Correct. Well done. That means you guys are very, very attentive. So I have written a requirement. I've written a complete user story, but I can't call it a complete user story. There are so many scenarios that are missing. I've not included those scenarios. I've just given what the user wants to do and what is the goal. So in user stories, guys, we have something called as acceptance criteria. Okay, take a note of this. You will hear this word a lot in an agile project. And put VBOK. That I can show it to you concurrently. VBOK, if you go to the techniques chapter, the first technique that you will encounter is the acceptance and evaluation criteria. A very important technique, and that's what we are going to do right now, acceptance criteria. So when we started creating a backlog in Jira today using the backlog management technique. Backlog management is something that we explored today, and now we are exploring acceptance criteria. Page number 217. Let's me go back to the Jira screen. So I will add acceptance criteria over here. Under acceptance criteria, what do I add? I will add the complete positive flow, the negative flow, the business rules, validation, everything I'll add. Okay. So I can see. So I can write seller can click on login now button instead of registration. System will display, or system will email address and password. On login, seller can access his account details and view the seller dashboard. Okay, got it? View the seller dashboard. The acceptance criteria for the seller can click on the login now button. When he clicks on the login now button, the system will ask him to enter email address and password. Upon login, the seller can access his account details and view the seller dashboard. Okay. Now, what is seller dashboard and all? We'll write it. We are going to have a separate user story about it, so don't worry about it. But now for this login, what are the negative scenarios? Okay, negative flows. Number one negative flow. User enters wrong email address or password. So we will indicate display message, email address or password incorrect. Second negative scenario that comes to my mind, user leaves email or password blank without entering anything. Then display message, so and so. Okay, got it? Are there any other rules that are coming to your mind? Is there any other rule? Seller login will be pretty straightforward. Email address, password, two fields are there. The negative scenarios that can occur is he has entered wrong details, so the system will display message. Or if he has left the fields blank, system will display a particular message. Do you remember anything else? Anything else comes to your mind? Then we can put it up there. Okay. So some are saying, what about forgot password? Should forgot password be a part of this user story, guys? Very good question. I like it. Should we include forgot password here? So definitely forgot password we need to have, but we will not include this forgot password as part of this user story. Why? The end goal of this user story is that the user should have access to his account and the features which are provided only to registered users, which means he should be able to successfully log into his account. Now, there are many scenarios. What if he forgets his password? What if he enters a wrong email address? That will come as a separate user story. We definitely have to deal with it, but not here. So, for forgot password, I can enter a new user story. See? So this is what usually happens, guys. As you start breaking down your ethics and user story, you will realize that, oh, there are more user stories that I did not think about. So I did not list forgot password in the first instance, right? Then one of you told me that forgot password should be there. So forgot password will be a user story on its own. Why? Because it has its own flow, right? What happens when you forget your password? Obviously, the login screen will have that link. But please understand, guys, every link that is going to be there on the screen, it's not necessary that you include that functionality also in the same user story. In this case, why am I creating forgot password as a separate user story? Because once the user clicks on forgot password, what will the system do? The system will ask him a couple of security questions to figure out, the system will ask him to enter his email address, and might ask him some security questions to figure out if he is the correct person. Okay. So after which he enters the security question, then it will say that, your password or your new password has been emailed to you. Or it might take the user to a screen where it will say, now you can change your password, enter your old password and change. We have verified that you are the correct owner of this account. You can use the screen. So several portals have that facility. I hope you must have seen that they send you an email saying that click on this particular link to reset your password. So whatever might be the flow, either it gives it either it auto generates a password and emails it to you, or it might ask you to reset the password. But this entire process, guys, if you can figure out, there is a separate loop involved. There is a separate flow involved in itself. It's not just that the user clicks on forgot password and the password is reset. If that's the case, then include it in the seller login. So, for example, if your customer is telling that include a link, a link on the login page that it will give information about so and so. Let's say terms and conditions. Okay, let's take that example. Let's think that the PO tells you in the login screen along with email address and password, there should be a link. It says terms and view our terms and conditions here. And the user clicks on the terms and conditions link, a pop-up comes with all the terms and conditions. Just that pop-up. Now for this pop-up, no, you don't need to write a separate user story. You can include it within the seller login, saying that login screen along with email address and password will also contain a link indicating view our terms and conditions. This is going to open up a pop-up with the terms and conditions, and you can attach that terms and conditions as an attachment to the user story and tell the technical team, please check the attachment. Okay. I believe everyone is very, very clear. Very, very clear on when you should have a separate user story and when it is not required. Yes, a very good point. I like this question. How about entering incorrect password more than 3 times? That's a good analysis work. So I'll go back to seller login. This is very much a scenario that should be there in the seller login. One of the other negative flows I got. So I will add here the third one. User does incorrect password thrice. System locks the account and displays a message. So and so. So what we are doing is, guys, we are now doing in-depth analysis of various scenarios. Do you understand? We are doing very in-depth analysis. And as we are discussing, you guys are giving me ideas and I'm going and updating those user stories. This is what happens in an actual project also. When you're writing user stories, you for some time you sit and think, what else are the scenarios that can occur? And then you go and revisit these user stories and update it once again. This is a process, guys. Don't think that you are going to get it all complete and get it right the first time. You know, the first time that you write, your user stories are bound to be a little incomplete. You will revisit them and update it, and that's when they will get to the complete level. So here, I can also add this point. System will also display forgot password link. And I can indicate, please refer to forgot password user story for details. Okay, this is a message for my technical team. Please refer to forgot password user story for details. Many times they come back and they ask, "Sorry, you forgot to write forgot password. You have missed forgot password." So you can mention this. So I have mentioned here in this user story acceptance criteria, I've mentioned all the data elements. I have mentioned the positive flow. I have mentioned the negative flow. Everything from the FRD that we have wrote, I brought it in the user story format. And now this makes my user story complete user story. The similar thing you have to do for seller registration, buyer login, and buyer registration. So this is your home assignment, guys. I want you to get enough practice on user stories. Complete these 4 user stories along with acceptance criteria. We have already completed seller login, complete buyer login, seller registration, buyer registration, and the forgot password. Okay, I'll give you this one also. Forget about the edit profile thing. I want these items to be complete, which you're seeing on the screen. This one, seller login is done, buyer login, seller registration, buyer registration, and forgot password. Very easy to write, guys. You have to do analysis exactly how I have done analysis. And most of the scenarios for seller registration, I've already told you. We were writing it in the seller login space. So you have that handy with you. You will do this as a home assignment, guys. Each one of you enter it in Jira so that you get enough practice on Jira. So if any one of you is seeing a different interface of Jira other than what you're seeing here on my screen, if you're seeing a different interface in your laptop, then probably you're not configured it step by step as I showed you. So watch the recording and create a new account using a different email address and follow exactly the steps that I followed. If you have chosen a wrong template or created a project space with a different set of parameters, like we had team managed and organization managed, company managed, then you will see definitely you see a different interface. If you're not seeing this interface, then you need to recheck. So do that next week. Go through the recording and complete this. Configure Jira correctly, and you'll see exactly the same interface. You should be able to come to the roadmap. Here you will be able to create all of these epics and user stories. So now in this session, you must have been very clear how the tool manages these linkages, because each and every user story linked to the epic. If you see, just open seller login, just click on seller login, and you will see towards the beginning, it will show you seller login belongs to account management epic. It is showing you it belongs. So that means it has automatically maintained that parent-child relationship. This is tracing, guys. This is how connections are maintained in the tool. Yes, this is how we can trace it. You can go and add additional attachment to every user stories. Now for user stories, we learned yesterday, I think in the last session, we learned how to create mockups and wireframes. So if you want to attach your mockup over here, there is an attachment tool over here. You just click on the attachment tool and attach. Add child issues. What does that mean? If there are any issues detected for this particular user story, your testing team goes and adds those issues. If they have any issues, they sometimes write their queries also here. So below every user story, there is a field called as comment. You will see this, add a comment. Many a time, your developers go and review the user stories that you have written, and they might leave a comment over here. The comment usually consists of their queries. So they'll write, I did not understand how this is going to work. How to log the account when the user enters a wrong password. What exactly we need to do? I need clarification of that. So they might leave a comment here, but that doesn't mean that you keep chatting with the developer here using this comment feature. Have an offline discussion with them and settle it out. That's a very easy way of addressing all issues rather than chatting here in Jira. When your technical team, testing team, they want to add any comment, even if your PO, if your PO feels that you have written a wrong user story, she might leave a comment. She might review. By the way, all these user stories that you are writing should be reviewed by your PO and approved by her. Okay. So while reviewing, she might feel that the user story is incomplete. This is not analyzed correctly. So she might leave a comment. I cannot approve this because of so-and-so reason. I think you have not understood the flow correctly, whatever. So that's what Jira is about. All about. Everyone clear on this, guys? Great. Was this a good learning experience? Type good if you feel that this was a good learning experience. This is all project implementation that we're learning. Besides BA Walk also, we should learn how to work in a project, like project, right? Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm happy that you are in line with what is being discussed today. So we are simultaneously also learning a whole bunch of techniques that are a part of BA Walk. As we are doing different activities, we are learning these techniques. There are some more UML diagrams that I will teach you. Now let me take you to chapter number 7 of BA Walk. Chapter number 7 is requirement analysis and design definition. Let me also mention that chapter number 6, I mentioned in the first session, chapter number 6, strategy analysis, is not included in ECB exam. That is the reason we are not doing it. Okay, this is out of scope. So that's the reason. From chapter number 5, I have directly jumped to chapter number 7. Chapter number 7, requirement analysis. Now, requirement analysis is nothing but what we have done right now. We did enough analysis of requirements, right? We thought about all different scenarios. You guys gave me some scenarios. I wrote it down in the stories. It's all about that analysis. But the only thing is that when you read it in DevOps terminologies, it might sound a little difficult for you. Okay. So, but you have to just remember the simple terminologies that I'm telling you. So the first task here is specify and model requirements. What does this mean is that the requirements that you collect from the customer, you have to choose what is the correct format in which you have to design it, analyze it, and document it. When I say design, it means see, after the requirements gathering that we did, elicitation, in the previous session, we learned elicitation and collaboration. We learned how to create mockups, wireframes we did in Visual Paradigm. So what I was doing, I was designing my requirements into a particular format. I created a design. After which, because I was in a waterfall project, in the last class, I wrote the requirements in a functional requirement format, FRD, because the final output that was expected was an FRD document. So I decided in my project, I need a prototype, I need an FRD. Now today what I have done is, I've taken a scenario where I'm working in an agile project. So how have I modeled my requirements? I modeled my requirements in the format of epics and user stories, right? I used altogether a different technique, epics and user stories, which is called as backlog management. So specify and model requirements simply says that as a BA, you can use various analytical techniques. Two analytical techniques we saw today, backlog management and acceptance criteria, and user stories. So we have the freedom to decide how to model our requirements, what kind of designs to be created. Now, between waterfall and agile, always remember, guys, although the documentation differs, in waterfall we have our FRD, in user story we have, in agile we have user stories. The documentation format differs, but the other diagrams will not differ. Okay? Prototype we create in waterfall also, we create prototypes in agile also. We create process flow diagrams in waterfall, we create process flow diagrams in agile also. And similarly, with case of use case diagram, data flow diagrams, all of those diagrams are can be prepared irrespective of whatever is the methodology in your project, irrespective of whether you're following waterfall or you're following agile. Remember that. So that is specified model requirements. Then there are two tasks which says verify requirements and validate requirements. Now, this is often confused by students. When in the exam, they are asked about validate requirements, they write about verify. And when they are asked about verify, they write about validate. So how do we remember this to sort out the confusion? Verify requirements simply means, as a BA, I'm checking that my requirement has enough detail so that the requirement can be taken to implementation. Okay. That means my requirement is complete. Every time that I was writing a requirement on the screen, remember I was asking you the question, how will you check it, whether it's complete or not? How will you check it? So I gave you a set of parameters that you can use to check whether your requirements and designs have enough detail. So that is verify requirements. That's the reason I say the chapter requirement analysis we have already done in the form of activity, where I have given you a set of parameters where you can check the requirements that are written are as per the quality standards. Okay. So that is verifying, where the BA is doing a review herself before it's sent to the customer. Validate requirements. Now both are V. Remember the letter V. That is the reason the confusion arises. Validate requirements ensures that the requirement that you have written supports the organization goals, which brings us back to the first point we had mentioned. When we are checking requirements, we should first check it against the source document, right? You guys told me. You remember that? Yes. The first check that we do is we check it against the BRD that the client has given. And what is there in the BRD? The BRD gives the organization's goals. In the BRD, they have indicated the business need, they have mentioned the business goals, their objectives. So validate requirements means that I'm checking the requirements that I have written with the BRD to ensure that it is aligning with their business goals. Okay. So validate requirements, alignment to business goals, write that. Mention this as a short note. Now, defining requirements architecture. Now, this again, we have done it in BEBOK terminology. You might feel that this is different. Defining requirements architecture means that as a BA, if you are a BA working on a very large project, let's say in the large project, like I said, there might be 300, 400 requirements. Right now in Jira, we just created a small sample list, right? But in large projects, that backlog is very, very huge. Okay. So when the backlog is so huge, there is no way you can remember which particular requirement is dependent on which requirement. You can't remember on the top of your head. Requirement number 1 is dependent on requirement number 8 and so on. You can't say, remember that. So we have to define a requirements architecture. And all of this is possible if you're using the tool where you can mark the dependencies between requirements. You can ask your Jira administrator. In the current Jira interface, you will not see any parameter that helps you link the user story, one user story to another user story. But you can ask your Jira administrator to configure that, and we can have an additional field by which you can connect two user stories together. Okay. You can do that. So when you connect one user story with the other, what you're doing is you're creating an architecture for the requirements where the connections are established. And what happens when you have these kind of architectures in a huge backlog where there are 300, 400 features, when the product owner changes one particular feature, you can automatically imagine the ripple effect it will have. One particular feature gets changed, when you go and modify that feature, the tool will show you there are, this particular change is going to create a ripple effect on the following user stories. That is the importance of having these linkages. Okay. Then we have the last two tasks, which talks about define solution options and analyze potential value. Okay. Now, what define solution options mean? Define solution options means that when a customer comes with you with a problem, like I mentioned in the first session, that as a BA, we need to be a problem solver. So when your customer, during the business need assessment meeting, the customer gives you a clarity on the problem area. After the meeting, you need to have discussion with your team of experts in order to suggest some solution options. Now, the way these suggestions are made is in several projects, these suggestions are made in different ways. In some projects, the team works on the problem and creates one solution. That might be one approach, solution one. Sometimes we give our customer multiple solutions, solution A, solution B, solution C, and ask him to choose any one of it. So this is what define solution options is all about, where you give him multiple options and also highlight that out of A, B, C, B is the most recommended solution. Got this, guys? You're in line with me. Now, these two parameters, these two last tasks, define solution option and analyze potential value, is something that you will not get involved with if you are an entry-level BA. So remember that an entry-level BA will not be involved in the solutioning phase. So don't worry about it. Not at all required for you to worry about it. All that I'm teaching on the job when you get deployed in a project, whatever I'm teaching you in the form of an activity is something that you will be required to do. Okay. Don't worry about the other elements that are mentioned in BA Bob. Okay. Because this is one single book. Remember, guys, this is one single book that is used by entry-level BAs to clear their exam, as well as senior BAs to clear the exam. So it includes a lot of advanced level topics also. So tell me, guys, out of these tasks, task number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, there are 6 tasks listed on the screen. Just number the tasks, okay? Tell me what are the tasks that you will be involved as an entry-level BA. Give me the task numbers in the chat window. Let me see if you are very clear on that. Let's see. Good. So I don't want the content of BEBOK to overwhelm you or make you feel, oh, business analysis is not for you. No. So task number 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 tasks, something that you will be involved as entry-level business analyst. We learned all of this in the form of an activity. 5 and 6, If you are in a senior BA role, you will be expected to do that. 5 and 6. So because this is all about solutioning. So the last task which is there, analyze potential value and recommend solution. This is a further drill down of the previous task. That is, define solution options. In define solution options, I told you, you will give different solution approaches to the customer, solution A, B, C. After which you have to give him your recommendation also. What you will see is you will check the value each and every solution offers, how much of value it is offering to the customer, how much of problem it is solving for the customer, what is the cost associated with it, what is the risk associated with it, all different parameters you will gauge. And based on that, you will put in a document what is the highly recommended approach. Like solution B is the most recommended solution from our side. Okay, guys, that's requirement analysis. So requirement analysis can be a little heavy for you in terms of a learning for the examination. But none of you should worry that, how am I supposed to do it in all the project? Don't know what is on the project front, guys. Let me run a quick quiz to see your understanding of this. A couple of important areas in this chapter. Let me tell you that first, and then I will run the quiz. Okay, open Webhook. And let's go. I've described these tasks in detail with you. Come to page number 134. Okay, I'm in page number 134. This particular page gives you a summary of all the tasks. Very important. Mark this, very important. You should be knowing what is the purpose of each task. Then we move on to further details for each and every task. Again, the task starts off with the purpose, important part. The inputs, outputs, elements are obviously important for every chapter. I'm not mentioning it again and again. So that applies to all the chapters, okay? Here, very important, this has been asked in several exams. Business analyst can use the following modeling formats: matrices and diagrams. What is a matrix? You should be knowing. What is a diagram? You should be knowing. Matrix is nothing but the table that I showed you, examples of roles and permissions matrix that I showed you yesterday. We had a stakeholder matrix. All of those are matrices. Again, this particular page itself is very, very important, guys. We are in page number 138. So in this page, there is model categories, something called as model categories. This is very, very important examination per se. Model categories can include the following: peoples and roles rationale. What they have done is they have categorized all the diagrams that we created. They have created separate categories for that. The stakeholder and organization model diagram, they fall under people and roles. Okay. The other diagrams, business rules and all, they fall under rationale. So questions that come in the exam are in this particular format. Organization modeling is organization modeling technique falls under which model category? So the answer is people and roles. So then they can ask user stories. The technique user story falls under which model category? Activity flow. That is the reason, along with every model category, you have to remember these examples that are given. This has been asked in several exams. My students have told me. So I'm telling you, create a list in your notepad, model category, people and roles. And examples are organization modeling, roles and permission metrics, stakeholder list, and personas. Rationale category, create a list for that. Okay. Very important. You have to memorize techniques for all the tasks. Let me move on to verified requirements. Verified requirements, The most obvious question is a BA is ensuring that the requirements and design specifications meet quality standards. So requirements meeting quality standards means the BA is doing verified requirements. So the question might be identify the task the BA is performing. Okay. So it is verified requirements. Read through this description. If there are any definition, you can read that. Then we come to another important area for exam. Elements. Under elements, there is this first section, characteristics of requirements and design quality. Which page number is this? This is 143. In 143, they have mentioned this. The following are the quality attributes of requirements. Requirements should be atomic, they should be complete, they should be consistent. You have to memorize this. What are the characteristics of requirements? What does an atomic requirement mean? These are all BEBOK terminologies, okay? When they're talking about atomic, what they mean is every requirement should be independently understood by your developer. Okay? It doesn't mean that they should not have dependencies. Dependencies will always be there, but it should be capable of being understood independently. You should be able to explain it to the developers independently. So atomic equal to self-contained. Complete, of course, we know the requirements should be complete so that the implementation work can start. They should be consistent, concise. These are some of the quality attributes of requirements. So you have to memorize all of these quality attributes along with what this attribute actually means. Okay. Let me give you a sample question. A BA is trying to verify whether a requirement is reasonable and possible within the agreed upon risk. Which quality attribute of the requirement is she testing? The answer to that is she's checking feasibility. Okay, so then we move to validate requirements. You're with me so far, guys? Verify requirements. Have you noted it down? Do you want me to go a little slow? Yes, I'm going to discuss requirement lifecycle management also. Requirement analysis also has very high weightage. So I come to validate requirements. And not just, see, one thing is noting down what I'm telling you as important points. Even after you note down, it is very, very important for you guys to go through the mock test in the exam simulator and score at least 80%. Once you score 80% in each and every mock test, that is the way you can gauge your exam readiness. And also, I mentioned in the first session, do not expect the questions, the final questions in the IIBA exam to be an exact cut of the questions that are there in the exam simulator. Okay. So the questions that IIBA produces are constantly reworded. They add their own words to the question. They twist the question a little. You have to very patiently read the question and understand where which section of BA-BOK it is pointing. You have completed the exam simulator with 80% scores, you have a 100% chance of clearing the exam. So no worries on that. Be a little patient to read the questions. Many students, they had gone by the wrong approach. They memorize the questions given in the exam simulator and thinking that, the same questions are going to come in the IIB exam. No, the question will be same in the sense of the context. The wordings might differ. You can't get an exact cut. So remember that. Very important. Do not memorize those questions. So now we are in which section? Let me check. Validate requirements. So in validate requirements, again, one obvious question based on the purpose. A BA is trying to ensure that the requirements and design align with the business requirements. What exactly is the task that the BA is performing? The BA is doing validate requirements. Inputs, outputs, elements, very, very important. what is the requirements in the validated format. Validated requirements are those that can be demonstrated to deliver benefit to stakeholders. Again, remember guys, each and every output that is there in this particular chapter, you will see the output is requirements in most of the task, but there is additional information in the bracket, requirements in the validated format. The previous task, verify requirements, we had requirements in the verified format. You have to remember that, okay? You have to remember what is there within the bracket also. Many students just memorize output is requirements, output is requirements. Output in what format? They will ask this question. They might ask you a question on verify requirements, that BA is verifying requirements. What will be the output that is generated out of this task? And the options might be confusing. Requirements in the validated format, requirements in the verified format, requirements in the approved format. So if you're not memorized the brackets, you will be confused. Requirements architecture. Again, the purpose is important. What is architecture used for? Important. Inputs, outputs, elements, of course. See if there is anything else that I can point you to. What kind of relationships? Very important, guys. Requirement, the type of requirement relationships. This relationships have been explained in detail in the ECBA reference book. Remember, in the first class, I asked you to download BEBOK. I also asked you to download an ECBA reference book from the Business Analysis Hub. How many of you have the ECBA reference book? How many of you have that? Yes. So in the ECBA reference book, if you go to the last section of that reference book, there are some examples I have put in to explain requirement relationships. What is a defined relationship? What is necessary? What is correct? What is unambiguous? And all of that. See that. What is requirements architecture? You should be knowing that. It contains requirements and their relationships. Define design options, understand the purpose of this task. Various solution approaches. This is in page number, let me see the page number, 154. Page number 154, you can see this. Solution approaches can be of the following types. Either you tell your customer that we will create a solution for you from scratch, or you can tell your customer that there is already a product in the market. You can purchase that particular product and that will solve your problem. That can be another solution approach. The third solution approach can be a combination of both. That means you tell your customer that we will create half of the solution for you, and the other half of the solution, for the other half of the solution, you have to purchase an off-the-shelf product. That is a combination of both. That's the example of combination of both. So like I told you, when a BA is defining solution options, he might define solution A, solution B, solution C. So this is how BEBOK has defined it. Either you create the application from scratch, or help the customer purchase a product from the market, or do a combination of create and purchase. So very important, guys, mark this. What type of solution approaches are considered by the BA? Improvement, common examples of improvement opportunities. Just learn the names of this. Increase in efficiencies, improve access, and identify additional capabilities. Then we move to analyze potential value. Obviously, you should be knowing the purpose. There might be some definitions in between, so take a look at that. And of course, input, output elements. So all of this text that you're seeing inside the elements, guys, all of these text doesn't need to be memorized, okay? That is not required. You have to read through this text. And if you find some definitions in between, then go ahead and memorize that. Like here, they have mentioned opportunity costs are alternative results. that might have been achieved if the resource, time, and funds had been allocated to another design option. They might ask, what is an opportunity cost? So when you are assessing design options, what are the factors that you will consider? You'll consider what resources you have, what is the available resources, what are the constraints of the solution. If there are any dependencies between requirements, you'll consider that. What exactly is the solution recommendation? You should be knowing that. Okay. So this is the requirement analysis chapter. I hope you have taken note of this. Everyone noted this down, guys? Type yes if you have noted all of this important. This chapter is a little long chapter. And like I said, some of the elements in Tree BS don't do it. So you get a little worried about how to do and how to memorize these. What about the others? Everyone with me so far? Have you taken notes or have you just left the Zoom call and taking and losing off? I know Bebo can get relatively boring sometimes. Type yes in the chat box, guys, if you are wide and awake right now. Okay, let me go to the last section once again. What was it in page number 170? Let me see. Page number 170, we didn't go there so far. We have just ended here in the last task of requirement analysis. Factors. The last thing that we discussed is several factors to be taken into consideration when you are assessing a design option. When a BA, so they might say that a BA is trying to assign, a BA is trying to assess a design option in order to recommend a solution. What are the different factors she should consider? She should consider available resources, constraints, and dependencies. The last one that we discussed is obviously the output. So one quick way to crack the complexity of BEBOK is to be very regular in our ECBS study calls. So in the ECBS study calls, as you are completing the portion along with me, chapter by chapter, it becomes relatively easy for you. So with that, let's wrap up today's call. Let's complete today's session. In the next session, we are going to see Confluence, how to use Confluence.
So let's pause here, guys. In the next class, we'll see Confluence tool, underlying competencies, and SQL skills for business analysts. So thank you very much. Bye. See you next class.